First up, news from the United States, where an Indian engineer has been shot dead at a bar in Kansas. The accused, an American man, allegedly shouted, "Get out of my country," before carrying out the attack. Another Indian and an American man who tried to intervene were hurt in the incident. Both have been hospitalized for treatment. Police arrested Adam Purinton, the 51-year-old accused. The victim, Srinivas Kuchibotla, was an aviation engineer who belonged to the southern Indian city of Hyderabad. The other Indian who was hurt in the incident has been identified as one Alok Madasani. The shooting is being touted as racially motivated. Witnesses claim that the shooter hurled racial slurs and probably mistook the Indians for West Asian nationals. And in news just coming in, the Ministry of External Affairs has reacted to the Kansas shooting incident. The MEA spokesperson Vikas Swarup has said that the U.S. consulate officials are heading to Kansas to render all possible assistance. They'll meet the injured Indian Alok Madasani and facilitate in bringing the mortal remains of Srinivas Kuchibotla back to India. The officials will be in touch with local police officials to ascertain more details on the incident and monitor follow-up action. Swarup also said that the officials will be meeting community members in Kansas.
I was just doing what anyone should have done for another human being. It's not about where he's from or his ethnicity. We're all humans. So I just felt I did what was naturally right to do. I was hitting the hand and the chest because initially I'd gotten under the table when he first started firing. Thought I heard 9 shots, expected his magazine to be empty. So I got up and proceeded to chase him down. Try to subdue him so that way the police could come in and do what they needed to do. And I guess I miscounted and with everything going on, and I got behind him and he turned around and fired around at me. Went through my hand and through my chest here, and then over to the left side of my chest. Barely missed my carotid artery, I guess. Fractured one of my vertebrae in my spine, or my neck. And that was about the gist of it. And I remember being here at the hospital.
For more on this story, we're now joined by WION's Mumbai correspondent Sanjana Chauhan. Good morning, Sanjana. Unfortunate incidents and news coming out of Kansas in the U.S. What more details can you share?
Yeah, extremely unfortunate news coming in this morning. Now, we understand that Foreign Minister Sushma Swaraj has also tweeted saying that she's been shocked at the shooting incident in which, remember, this young man, Srinivas, has been killed. And she's assured that they'll provide all help and assistance to the bereaved family. This is extremely disheartening and very, very disturbing at a time like this. Remember, because, you know, given Trump's latest policies and surrounding immigration and just the run-up to the entire American elections has been marred with you know, a bevy of racial slurs. We saw even during campaigning, we saw a lot of attacks after Trump came to power as well. We see a lot of racial attacks happening, a lot of immigrants being attacked. Remember, America is even trying to change the mindset. Remember, restaurants actually went for one day without any immigrants to show America what it was like to, you know, to function without these immigrants that actually shaped the country. So it's extremely unfortunate. The information that we have right now is that the incident took place at about 7:15 or between 7:15 and 8 o'clock local time in Kansas. And Kuchibotla and his friend Mr. Madasani were catching up over a drink after work. And Adam Purinton, who is actually a former naval officer, started shouting and racial comments. Supposedly, he also called them Middle Easterns. But a hate crime is a hate crime. It does not matter, what the racial slur is. This is after he fired multiple rounds. And obviously witnesses to the attack are saying that it's racially motivated. So we understand that Sushma Swaraj has in fact extended support. But after the shooter did this, he fled the spot and he was caught in Missouri over 5 hours later. That's all the information we have right now. I'll definitely try and get you more.
Right, Sanjana, please stay on. Since you referred to Sushma Swaraj's tweet, I want to quickly bring our viewers up to speed with what she has said in the last few moments. And this is the graphic that you see on your screens. Minister of External Affairs Sushma Swaraj has also condoled the killing of an Indian techie in the US. Swaraj tweeted that she was shocked to hear about the shooting. In a second tweet, she said that she had spoken with the Indian ambassador to the US and that 2 embassy officials have been rushed to Kansas to take stock of the situation. She's also spoken to the family members of Srinivas and has assured all possible help and assistance to the victim's family. Right, coming back to you, Sanjana, you described this incident as hate crime and racially motivated. Now, do we have any sense at all as to why and how frequently this might be happening, and is there any correlation at all between such hate crimes and the installation of the Donald Trump administration in the US?
Right, we had in fact been seeing, remember there was a series of videos that was put up when it started, when we got to know that Trump was in the running to be president. And he's made no holes and no, he's been absolutely unabashed when it comes to, his policies surrounding immigration, his policies, about Mexicans, be it, his policies around women. So there has been this sort of, I can't even call it an underlying current. It's really unabashed now in America, where people who have, all kinds of discrimination are kind of been given the power to come out and say it and act on it, as we have been seeing. Sure, America has definitely witnessed racially motivated attacks in the past, but now it almost seems like Trump's administration and the entire immigration policies have been giving out tickets to people like this.
Right.
Who, feel free to, attack people
right.
With racially motivated slurs. So we saw there was one woman in the train, remember, who was attacked by a Trump supporter on the New York subway. She was an African-American woman. She was attacked where she was asked to go back to her own country. So it just doesn't start with, with the immigration policies, but now as you see, it's going on to something far more serious than just that.
Indeed, Sanjana, I'll ask you to stay on, but I'm now joined by our colleague Archana Chaudhury. Good morning, Archit. I was asking Sanjana there about any correlation that might exist between such hate crimes and the installation of a Donald Trump administration in the US. What's your take, Archit?
Ramesh, absolutely. It's a very interesting analogy to sort of draw. But, after the whole Trump's speech about Make America Great Again and sort of a really an isolationism, push during his campaign, as well as, now that he's in office, this certainly could be some of the signs of trouble, unfortunately, for a situation where the gun control in the United States is already on thin ice. And situations like this, sadly, we may see more and more things like this, especially possible hate crimes when it comes to immigrants and minority communities. So, unfortunately, not the most exciting news to sort of wake up to. But we also just got an update from the police department. So I'll just share that with our viewers. Basically, we've got some more updates about the victim, Srinivas Kochibotla, who's 32 years old. He was shot and killed, according to police. And then we have the 2 other people that were with him at that bar, Alok Marisani, 32-year-old, and 24-year-old Ian Grillo. So very interesting to see that 2 of these are Indians. One of these people, one of the other victim was not Indian. So perhaps while this is a sad situation, we are reading reports that this man Ian apparently jumped to rescue one or both of these other victims. So even in a sad situation, there were heroes, but unfortunately, this is something the Trump administration will have to do. The Trump administration will have to be very careful on how they handle this and how they'll address this, and again, bring about the whole issue of gun control. A bar, in a typical suburb, in a typical part of the United States, is a place that many people will go to get drinks and just enjoy and not think about safety. But sadly, even those places are not safe anymore in the United States.
Absolutely, Archit. I'll ask you, Archit, and Sanjana to stay on while I take a moment or two to bring our viewers up to speed with what has happened in the last few hours or so. So here is what we know so far about the shooting in Kansas, which took place on Wednesday night. The deceased has been identified as 32-year-old Srinivas Kuchibotla. He was an aviation engineer at an American multinational company called Garmin Limited. Kuchibotla was a resident of Overland Park in Kansas and belonged to Hyderabad city in India. The other Indian hurt in the shooting is 32-year-old Alok Madasani, who worked with the deceased at the same company and was also his friend. Madasani is also a resident of Overland Park and was wounded in the shooting. He has now been discharged from the hospital where he was being treated. The third victim of the shooting is 24-year-old Ian Grillett, a resident of Olathe, Kansas. Grillett was also shot by the accused after he tried to intervene in the scuffle. He is currently being treated at a local hospital. The main accused in the case is 51-year-old Adam Thurington, a Navy veteran and a resident of Olathe. As per eyewitness accounts, Thurington first got into a scuffle with the Indians, then left the bar only to return with a gun. He then shot the Indians and was heard yelling, "Get out of my country." He's been arrested and charged with first-degree murder and attempted murders. If I can quickly go back to my colleague Archit. Archit, you were referring to the consequences, some unforeseen, after the installation of the Donald Trump administration. Now, if I were to take a moment or two to ask you to reflect on the last few years in the US, especially towards the end of the Obama administration, where we saw racially motivated attacks and hate crimes against African Americans in particular. And today, with the Donald Trump administration in the White House, we're seeing attacks and hate crimes on immigrants. Archit, what do you make of this unfortunate trend, as it were?
Ramesh, absolutely. A very interesting perspective. I mean, over the last few years, we've seen more than a share of shootings. I've lived in the U.S. for 20 years, and every few months, rather, there are shootings. We saw one of the most recent ones not too long ago at that airport at Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And then there was, of course, that church shooting, Dylan Roof, where he opened fire at a church in Charleston. So at a church, at a movie theater, at school, Sandy Hook. So it almost seems like no place is too safe for anybody, whether it's students, whether it's immigrants. But certainly more and more of these type of things do happen because of how the United States, their policy when it comes to guns and gun control. The big debate in the United States is everybody says you should have a gun because if somebody breaks into your house, you're armed and prepared. But on that analogy, unfortunately, people who perhaps have mental illness or people who want to take revenge or have hate crimes or whatever the reasons are, they have quick and easy access to guns. And we've seen the devastation, the damage that can do. Case in point, what had just happened at this bar where one person has died, an Indian, and 2 others were hurt. So that is something that the Trump administration will have to carefully address. But also rhetoric that Trump makes is something that is very crucial to the American environment right now. In fact, right after the elections, when we were there covering it, we saw a lot of people that had signs and, basically even in schools said, immigrants get out of the country or you don't belong here. So I think this sense of divide, this whole racial tension has been escalated after Donald Trump's escalation. And perhaps this is not only to the rural American community, but even in some of the bigger cities. And that is something that is equally of concern not only for Indian immigrants, but any immigrant who chooses to live and raise their family in the United States. So certainly very tragic, very sad story happening out of the United States.
Indeed, Archit, very tragic indeed. We leave it at that. That was WION's correspondents Archana Chaudhury and Sanjana Chauhan reporting there about the fallout and the implications of the Kansas shootout.